I don't know. I've never been introduced with the hostess with the mostest, so I'll take that. It's 2021. Super comfortable with whatever you want to call me, and want to say what's up to everybody. Really excited to be here. I feel like this is as much of an interesting learning thing for me to present on this stuff as it may be for you, hopefully. So I'm here, and I feel really like my last name Souza is kicking in because I have a jacket on, and Cassie was like, "Are you cold?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm freezing," and I'm in a room with my own air conditioner turned on, and I'm freezing myself. And why would I not turn off the AC? But now it's too late because now I'd have to walk all the way over, and it's not going to work. So what I'm going to do is get us started on this by making a little change into the configuration of this Zoom thing. So I did a spotlight for myself. And thank you very much, Cassie, for allowing me to be a co-host to do that. Sometimes when I ask people, hey, can you guys give me that, spotlight me? They're not sure how that works. But what you should be looking at is one big giant picture of me, which is not really the key thing, but it's kind of allows me to do stuff that maybe switches. So now I'm getting you like a behind the scene look at what I'm trying to do today. And this is like my desk. I tried to clean it. It's still messy. And but I kind of want to walk you through this. I'm definitely not an expert at this whole idea of presenting online, but I have learned a lot from a lot of mistakes. So I want to share some of those things with you. And I really appreciate you guys having your cameras on, because this is the thing. You know, if we're doing it live, let's do it live. I much would prefer to go see bands. I saw one band. I took my kids to go see a band. It was at Pipeline Cafe. I don't know if you guys ever remember that place, but we had some friends there, and we went to go see a band. They played their music exactly the same way that they played it on their CD, and it wasn't quite the same for me. I love the bands that do things live a little bit differently. So we're gonna be a little bit different here, because part of our objective here is to talk about things that have to do with presenting and facilitating online. And Cassie did do this to me. She's like, hey, we're doing this meeting coming up in November. Can you teach there, share some stuff that you do and what you're learning? I said, sure. And I didn't know it was like this full, like I'm reading the flyer. I'm like, that's kind of cool stuff. And like, I wouldn't mind going to it. And I'm like, oh, there's my picture down there. So Cassie had made it a little bit more formal than I expected. But again, I do want to share some things that I do as a presenter, and when I'm facilitating online, and some of the differences and things like that I hope will be beneficial for you. But before I do, whatever the presentation is, whatever I'm talking about with people, I do like to start out by saying aloha to you. And so e aloha mai kako, even if we are far away from each other and communicating digitally, we can still share this life that we have. So if you can just type in the chat aloha and where you're zooming in from, let's make this interactive. You know, this is one of the things that I believe that not only do we need to learn how to use these new technology tools, but also some of our audience too. So go ahead and drop that in the chat. Thank you very much, Makana. Aloha Cassie, Kaniohe, Slavi, I'm in Kailua, so it's freezing over here. A couple of people from 96744, and Jennifer right behind Cassie. That's so funny. I can't see you because she has those little things going on. Hawaii Kai, Nu'uanu, represent. Thank you very much. Thank you for dropping it into there. And I mentioned this idea of us getting better at presenting online, but also getting better at engaging as a participant online, because it is a fantastic opportunity for us to interact in a way that we can't normally do. If you're on a stage, you don't have people just, whatever comes up in your mind, dropping things in the chat, communicating with one another, sharing ideas. There was a presentation that I did a few months ago, and there was a couple hundred people on the Zoom call, and they had shut down the chat just by default. And that's what they told me. We don't allow chat going on. I'm like, why would you not? Why not just take a video of the presenter and then put the video on? Because that's, again, there's a canned presentation, and you can share that information. It's like having meetings when you don't have to have a meeting. You know what I'm talking about? Why did you not just email me that? But I have to have a meeting to do this. And so what we're going to do is talk a little bit about this idea of communicating online with these kind of tools. Right now we're using Zoom. But a quick story, I did a presentation this is the new one. This is a PowerPoint slide deck. It's a part of it. I just did a screenshot this morning of it, because I was like, oh, it's taking me back so long ago to 2020, when I was asked to do a presentation for, it was a customer service training for a big giant group of people. It was like 300 people, all from Hawaii, all trying to figure out Zoom. And I'm like, I've been doing customer service training since like, I was like a kid, or, I don't know, like a teenager or something, since the 90s. And so I'm like, no big deal, great. And then about a week before it, I started looking through my slides because I again, literally since the 90s, I've been doing customer service. This is my lifeblood. My kids, my wife knows all of my customer service training, stuff. They know it all. So I'm not stressing at all. And then I start realizing as I'm going through my slides, about a week, I'm lying. About 3 days before, I'm looking at, I don't know how you guys do that too, but I'm looking at my slides going, oh, wait a minute. And then I start to realize that this is a different world, that we're not in the same world that I can just show up and I don't even need slides. I go to a big giant conference and I talk about customer service, plug my computer in. Because now we're dealing with it face to face here. And again, let me see if I can get this a bit bigger. Hard for you to still see the slides, but at the top it says 2020. This is June of 2020. And I'm like, what? I've been doing customer service for so long, but then when I look at this, it made me go from prepping for a presentation that was about 3 hours total, over a couple of days, maybe longer, maybe about 3 hours. And it would normally take about an hour to make sure everything's where it's at. But then I had to go redo every single slide on my slide deck because we're not in the same world. And you see all the yellow stuff. I had to drop in little things that had to remind me to stop what I'm doing and engage with people in different ways. And it took me 6 hours for the first hour and a half to redo this slide deck. And I was amazed. So 12 hours over plus to do this. And so I was kind of amazed at how much work it took for me to take this slide deck of stuff that I normally do and try and translate it over. And the conclusion for me, if you forget everything else, or you don't listen to anything else, or nothing else is worthwhile for me, for you, that comes from me, this is it. I got to flex on this. I got to drop Dorothy in this. We're no longer in Kansas. and neither is your little dog Toto too. We're not in Kansas anymore. This is 2021, and we're having to present in ways that we never have before. And this is just mind blowing for me. This is what I realize is that there's not a one-to-one transfer. And what I mean by that is that you can't take what you've done in person, and you may be the best, so good at it in person, and then expect for that to work online. It just doesn't. There's no one-to-one transfer. It's almost like if you have seen a play on Broadway or live on stage at so whatever it is, a live play, live drama, and then try and watch it. Somebody makes like a TV recording of it, or they just videotape. It's not the same. My wife was in drama at Castle, speaking of 96744 and Kaneohe people. So we've gone to see plays, and I've seen plays that she was in where somebody just had a video camera, like with film, and put it in the middle of the theater and film the whole thing. And it's just not the same, but that's what we try to do. So many of us have tried to do when we were forced to switch into this idea of presenting online or communicating online. So again, there is no one-to-one transfer. And I want to talk a little bit more about that and some, what's the same thing now, what's different. Essentially, if we kind of zero in and sort of the target for me today, this is like what I'm trying to communicate with you is, or provide or contribute, is some different ways to strengthen our online communication. So communication is communication, regardless of whether we're face-to-face or whether we're face-to-screen. It doesn't matter. It is. But now the approach to it is going to be a little bit different. And when I say strengthen, this is kind of a picture of me. This is actually me for real. When in 2019 using Zoom, because nobody uses Zoom. I did want to do like the Jetsons thing. I wanted to be cool, but nobody had any reason really. But we're using it periodically on and off. And the idea here is that there's some different ways that we can work out. And I'm not here yet, but this is one of those strongman contests. And this is where I would like to be. And here's where you get this. If I look back on this a year from now or 2 years from now, Cassie, and I look back on this recording, I'm going to say, look how messy my screen is. Like, I don't know if you guys first remember ever having like your computer that you can make fonts and you can make flyers. Remember those flyers are just terrible. I remember making a brick wall on a on a 8x11 flyer and putting all kinds of stuff on it, all kinds of mixing fonts. And so I'm kind of in that stage now with, I got these cool tools, so let me just use them. I'm going to put Dorothy back on, that's kind of the fun part of it. But then sometimes it distracts from it. So I want to share again some of the mistakes that I've done when we're talking about this. And initially I was thinking we're looking at presentations. So, you're doing some kind of training, you're in HR, you're giving a presentation, you're using whatever slides you're going to use, or maybe you're facilitating stuff, because I've had to transition over to doing online focus groups, online community meetings. Really interesting thing, and it sounds like we can just do a Zoom thing, but I was doing one for the election. So I forgot when it was, but I was putting up pictures of different mayoral candidates, and how you put those on affect sometimes how people respond. And so we had to, how we're doing it. If I was in person, we'd hold up a picture or pass around a picture or put something on a slide or on a TV behind me. And so now we're having to do that facilitation thing. So I'm thinking about presentations. And then I remember what one of my old friends, good friends, old not as an old, but my old good friend, I've known her for a long time, Pam Chambers, who is one of our trainers here in Hawaii, told me she does training on communication, presentations. And I remember one of her trainings that everything basically is a presentation, whether it's 1-to-1, 1-to-5, 1-to-many, in person, on the phone, on the street, in a conference room, in a stadium. And so I guess it could apply to whatever kind of online communication that we're doing here. That's the thing. So a little shout out to Pam. Always good memories when I think about this. So before I go any further, I did drop this into my list too. If you have any particular questions coming into this that you already know, drop them in the chat now, and we'll kind of just go through them. And you can, anytime you want to, holler at me. You can literally unmic yourself or unmute yourself and just yell if I don't see you, or wave at me or whatever. I'm trying to see if I can get as many people. I see all your cameras on, so I really appreciate that. So if you have any questions, now you can drop them in. If you're already like, hey, can we cover this? Can we do this? Can we talk about that? Then drop them in there. And if, as we're going through, if there is any questions that pop up, maybe Cassie, if you can help me track it, because sometimes I can't chew gum and talk and walk at the same time. That's just fact. There's a lot of things. Cassie, how are you getting the graphics on the screen? Yeah, software you're using to present. Definitely want to talk about that, because that was kind of the thing that I was looking for. It's sort of the holy grail of getting these images or pictures and where we're at. And again, going back to the like say the Broadway play or the TV kind of analogy, it becomes more like we're dealing with a production here, like a TV production, than we are like a live drama kind of production. You still got the same kind of stuff, and I want to talk about all those things. But it is that idea of production. So we're going to look at that. For me, I'm going to pop into like a little slideshow here. This is a little bit of real briefly, mostly to keep me on track and keep me on point in the time that we have. The objectives, I want to look at some of the things that are the same, some of the things that are different for us as we're presenting online. Again, you're not in Kansas anymore. You cannot take there's no one-to-one transfer of techniques, approaches that we used to do without consideration. So it's not that I don't use slides. This is still made in Keynote. I'm on a Mac, but it's how we use slides that make a difference now for us. And so I have to think about it. So it's not just a no-brainer. I'm just going to show up, plug my computer in, which I love, and go to work on it. So we're going to talk about some of the same, some of the differences, and then I'm going to talk about these tools, some of the things that you might want to use and why you might want to use them. And again, when I first got a computer and I was making flyers, they were terrible. And I'm sure I'm going to look back at some of these things and realize that's I get that death by PowerPoint kind of stuff. And maybe if we have a little bit of time, talk a little bit more about what the future looks like for us and how often or how much things will continue to change. So real quick on this, I'm going to leave my face here just for a second, but I want to talk just a little bit about those things that are the same real quickly and get into the tools and get into the software kind of stuff. The things that are the same now for us, whether we're in person or online. Okay, I think we're going to have the same goals. So if you're a trainer, if you're presenting, if you're facilitating, if you're meeting online, we have the same goals. And the goals for me is effective communication. I define effective communication as effective communication for me is going to be when the receiver understands the message the way that I intend it. So you get your message across, whether again, it's face to face, you're 2 feet away from somebody, or you're 10 feet away, or you're on a stage. If you've ever been where you're presenting to a very, very, very large group, you're looking like this is the convention center. The convention center, I was on a stage there where there's like 5,000 people. It's dark. You can't see anybody. It's a different game. It's just a different thing. I've never been in a stadium before, but I just imagine it's going to be magnified like a gazillion times. So this idea of how much space, or minimizing the space, or getting through that space and communicating, getting our message across, is the same across the board. It doesn't matter. So that's the same goal, whether it's online or in person. The needs that we have are also going to be kind of the same. We have needs as presenters or communicators that are using this medium. Our participants or audience is going to have needs too. And these are some of the things that I think that I want to cover with you going through the tools on this. But the needs essentially are going to be stuff that has to do with, like, we need people to see us, to hear us, and we need to make sure that we have people's attention. People, we need to be seen, they need to see, we need to be heard, they need to hear. And so all of those things are all the same as we go forward in this. And it's just that we're not in Kansas, right? So I'm sorry, I did a little mistake on this. Some of the differences though, and this is where I want to spend some time on this. The difference for us is in the tools. And that's where I want to pull up a little PDF and share some things with you on this and see where we're at on the tools. And when I talk about tools, I put this little thing together for me just to keep track, and it's in order. It's not a well-formatted handout or anything, but I want to go over these things with you and see what I can share with you, what we can learn from each other, because many of you are doing all the same stuff. And like I said, I'm still learning at this, not an expert at this, but have kind of geeked out a little. And so I'm going to blow this up a little bit. Hang on just one second. No, wrong one. I want to be here. And so let me just talk about some of the tools, and I'm going to go in order of importance if you're presenting online. And computer sounds like a no-brainer. This idea of the computer being here, it's something that I'm working a lot right now in digital literacy around our state, trying to upskill people into these kind of skills, so they have the kind of hardware skills or have the kind of computer skills that are going to allow them to get the job done in today's environment, in today's world. So when we start talking about hardware, though, there was something that people said a while back, like during this pandemic, the people who were digital became more digital. And the people who are not digital became less digital. This idea that if I'm surrounded, let me just show you myself again. I bought you can't see this other computer. So this is my computer that I used to use all of my presentations on. I have to have a laptop because I have to go around and do different things and plug stuff in and get projectors and things. But then during the pandemic, especially because we're doing so many I was doing live streams for presentations that had to go down perfectly. I bought this right here. I don't know if you can't really see it as well. It's a Mac Mini. It's an M1 Mac Mini. It's like the new processor on it. And I only use that for these kind of slide presentations. I mean, for these kind of online things. And it sounds so arrogant. It sounds so sassy, but my life is lived on this thing right now. So if you're like a casual presenter, you casually have meetings, if you don't mind, if you completely, you fall off the screen here, nothing, then it's okay. If you live by this, then you're going to get more digital. And that's what I did. So I think I bought this monitor for my son because he bought a different monitor. So I bought this one from him. I got a different mic. I used to use this Yeti over here. I got this one, which I don't like having my mics in the picture. A lot of people do, they'll drop mics on the thing. I don't like it, but it does create a whole bunch of problems because I have an AC behind me because this room that I'm in is terribly hot. And so it forced me down all kinds of paths to try and find all kinds of different solutions to solving like how I'm assuming that you can't hear my AC on right now. Okay. I'm just assuming that. Like, but if I do this, I think that you will hear it. Can you hear it? Can you hear it now? Is it more noisy? Yeah. So I have all kinds of little digital things going on, and hopefully I fixed it. You never know, right? You never know. But if it's really terrible, then you'll just let me know, yell at me. So this idea here of getting, I put down computer as the first thing. If your computer is not made in 2021 or 2020, and you're putting major demands onto that processor and to that graphics board, graphics card, then if it doesn't matter to you, if you lose things, whatever it is, then ignore all the stuff that I'm talking about. But if this is just, it's good to put like pictures of Dorothy up on the screen. But if you don't see it, it doesn't matter. So again, we had to get new routers. So Costco has routers. Best Buy, I'm loving Best Buy right now because I can drive in and I can buy it. I can drive and pick it up. And I don't even have to go into the store. It's actually pretty close to Amazon prices. They match Amazon prices. So we got a new router. And then my son had to buy a new router because my kids are all into crypto mining. And so he's all, Dad, it's not reaching they have a apartment in our garage. So they had to go do that. And so, whatever, we'll get an even faster router. And then I'm going to suggest again, too, that if you're doing online presentations, like you have to be wired. You can't be Wi-Fi'd. And I deliberately close my Wi-Fi little thing. And I'll show you my screen right now. Let me see if I can do this. Let's see. So right now you should be looking at my screen. Is that correct? I think so. I can't tell you. I can't see you guys anymore. So this is me. And right up over here, like I deliberately shut off this Wi-Fi on my computer just so I can make sure that it's not accidentally going over into that. And that's just huge for me. But this is a picture of the screen that I'm looking at. This is the audio kind of it's not an interface, it's an audio application that allows me to denoise my AC. So dogs barking. There's a couple of ones that are Crisp is another app that I used before in the past. But anyway, so that's happening there. Got to be wired. You got to have microphones. When we start looking at mics, again, I'm using this, and I can't even remember what kind it is. It's a Shure MV7 something or other. It's not the one that Joe Rogan will use on the very expensive one. So it's like a medium one. And I saw on the flyer, this little flyer thing up here, that it was like all without breaking your budget. And that's up to you. I don't know what your budget is. So if your budget is free, then we can figure out some stuff there. But if you're, there's again, how important is your message is the question, right? How important is it that you not lag or fade away or something? So that's kind of the thing here for me. I got a mic. I actually got another mic here too that we used to use. Just the Yeti. These are not that expensive. So when we talk about like Yetis and stuff, or mics, this is a USB mic. Something, right? If I was using the mic that's on this is about, Cassie, I don't remember how much this mic costs, but I know you had one of these. It's like
that one on Amazon. I think that one on Amazon, they have it for about like $70-$80. Yeah. You can also get like a Blue Ice mic for like $30. At the same token, you can probably get some really good headsets with a microphone, and those actually will cost you like $20-$30 as well.
Yeah, those are cool, and they kind of look cool. Like I'm wearing these, but I don't need to, I think, except that my AC is so loud and there's some feedback that might happen if people are talking. So, whatever. But, I'm just looking at a question over here from Andrew. Have you observed that managing cognitive load in your audience is the same, easier, or harder in virtual presentations? I'm going to say 100% harder. You know it too. This is so hard to do. Because there's so many things that we could be doing. And again, this is why and maybe it's like filtering the audience so that people who are in the audience are the people that that need to or need the stuff that you're talking about. Because if you do, then you're going to be paying attention. Like if I'm talking about here's how to make $1 gazillion in the next 30 days, and it's for real. I get into alchemy and I can do the lead to gold thing, and you shut down everything else, right? So it is way harder to do. And that's kind of on, there's some responsibility on me as a presenter, but also some responsibility on the people that are participating. So that's a great question though. So a camera, again, just how important is the communication that you're having? Like, let me do something real quick. Like, I'm gonna pop you on there, Makana. Okay, so I just added you to the thing, Makana. So lucky thing you weren't eating or anything. But look how nice your camera is. What are you using for your camera, Makana? I'm just curious.
I'm using Aver Media, AVER Media. It was, I think, about $60 at Best Buy. I tried the Logitech Brio, and it was too complicated for me.
Oh, gotcha.
And this one, I just plugged it in, it worked.
I understand that completely. And I have one of those. We got one of those for my son for Christmas, and I kind of I steal it sometimes when he's not looking. Or if I've been splitting cameras with my kids. So this is an interesting thing. What, are you using a different microphone too, Makana, or is there a built-in microphone?
No, it's a built-in mic, but when I'm doing presentations, I use a Blue Yeti.
Okay.
But I'm able to put it so you can't see it. And then I also have a ring light happening right now.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I just put you on the spot without you even knowing. Yeah. But we have that kind of control, I guess, now if I have the co-hosting thing on this. But I do have a camera. Let me see if I can flip back to this here. And it's right above my screen right there. My son, who is very much into photography, and I split this, and it's a Canon M50. And the big deal on that for me is that I get to blur out my background a little bit. I forgot what those, they call that, darn it. But you can do it now on iPhones, right? The portrait mode where, not Pogue, I can't remember the word for what that allows you to do with this lens. So my son was into this. He was videotaping and was recording professionally, getting asked to record things and do video things. So we said, hey, can we split this? And so I have ended up on the better end of the deal, and I use it more than he does. But if I'm doing presentations, I'm going to have that. The camera that I have on my MacBook Pro is just not that good. And it says like 720 or something, but it's just not. And I can't control it. I can't do what I want with it. It's actually better to get a camera off like an iPhone or a smartphone. There's so many different apps that allow me to get more precise with it too. And I like that. And we'll talk about that just a little bit. But for me, again, how important is your message and how important it is, that answer to that question is going to be what your budget is. And so lights, this is like a really super important thing. Everybody knows this. Then Makana just referenced that she has a light up there. When I was talking to Cassie, when we first came on, she popped her light on, and here's like no light for me. It's kind of like I turn all the lights off and I'm just cruising and working. But I do have another light over here on the side, and this little lamp in the back is just for show. And I like it. My wife went and painted my wall for me. She likes that kind of stuff, and set up all the things. And so I'm like, you have at it. You do it. You paint away. So we try and make that happen. But if you saw like the bottom of my office or my desk, it would look, that's real life right there. So the lights though are critical. How we look at what needs to be seen, what doesn't need, you need to be heard, you need to be seen. Those are the key things for us. So looking at that, I have miscellaneous on this thing too, before we get into software. And one of the miscellaneous things for me, can't see it there. Hang on just 1 second. I'm gonna break off my camera here. And what I found was that I had to get into, and I never knew these things before. Let me flip back to this here. Was this, it's a powered USB hub. So I have all kinds of USB things going on right here, but a powered USB hub, which I failed electronics in high school. Mine was the only light bulb that did not go on. Everybody said, 1, 2, 3, flip your switch. And my switch did not, my light did not go on. So I don't know all the watts and things, but I do know that there's a major drain on all of the things that I'm asking my computer to do. So I had to get that. The other thing that I ended up, that my wife got for me for Christmas, was it Christmas last year? I think it was Christmas, was this thing from Elgato. It's a Stream Deck that allows me to go back and forth with things. So let me see if I can I do it here? If you look down on the bottom of, let me see. What can I do? Let me go here. So this is showing my screen again. This is the entire screen in kind of like a demo mode. But if you look down here, this is the slides that I'm using. And it's just like 4 or 5 of them to keep me on track. But I can change them. I don't know if you can see it. It's hard to see. Or maybe you can see it on the monitor to the left of me. But I can change them by clicking these little buttons that are preset. And I set them up all kind of every single presentation that I do is different. So I do change them. But these little buttons control stuff. And it's really kind of cool and kind of fun for me. So I geek out a little bit on that kind of thing. But again, that was the, sorry, Jennifer, that was it's called Elgato Stream Deck. Elgato Stream Deck. And they sell it at Best Buy. But it is, and I use it on the daily too, not even doing presentations, just because I can pre-program buttons to open up email, open up my calendar. If you're into, you can script your own things, you can do all kinds of stuff with that. Oh, shucks, Cassie, you're so quick. Thank you. So when we start looking at hardware kind of stuff, those are my miscellaneouses. I don't know if I've covered anything or everything. That's about it. There's all kinds of things on my, by the way, like these little, any kind of AirPods or earbuds are not bad. I use these, and the microphone and the speakers are not that bad for where we're for sound and stuff like that as we're going forward. But let me stop over there and see if there's anybody have any questions on the hardware stuff. I don't know if that's exciting, but I started with computer, and wired internet. So if you're on online presentations and you're not doing that, you're just rolling the dice. All right, so let me talk about software. I'm using Keynote because I'm on a Mac, but I've been noticing, I used to teach PowerPoint classes, and I've been noticing that the PowerPoint stuff is actually pretty slick. PowerPoint's getting pretty cool for me. I'm agnostic in terms of software that creates slides. But the question is, do we use slides, right? But I do, and it's super easy. If I'm doing a presentation, I may just do a share the screen thing to a group of people that may not, for me, need to have this kind of interactivity or whatever it may be. But when I talk about the need for that, I'm talking about I trying to close the distance between us, right? And so I still periodically, you can't see this right now, but I'm going through and clicking on the thing just to see everybody, just say hello. Like, I'm at Jennifer right now. Thank you. Hi, Jennifer. And Doug is over there. And I just kind of walk my way through that, just like if you're looking from left to right. But this kind of connection, there's been times when nobody has their cameras on. I'm talking to like 300 people. I'm looking at myself. And now we're, going back to Cassie's point about Botox. I'm like, I never noticed these. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's not going to happen. No offense. Trisha, no problem. Stuff in your face. Please feel free. It would have been so funny if I would have flipped through that and then you're eating right there at that same time, or asked you to come on and co-spotlighted you on this thing. So no problem, Trisha. That's so funny. So when we talk about software, this is fun stuff for me, though I did seriously geek out into the hardware things, right? So I got a new computer, the Mac Mini, very, very small, not that expensive if you already have keyboards and monitors. We got a camera, split that with my son, but there's some money in this. And again, we were doing live streams for some of the projects that I'm working on, and that was pretty critical. And then just having regular meetings, like just regular office weekly meetings, it's just a bonus at that point for me. Like, I have all the gear that I need. And Cassie was telling me that if you're in the office and working from home, now you're having to get two sets of everything, right? So that's a tough one. So I'm just doing it on here. So when we talk about streaming apps, the application I'm using right now is called Ecamm. And I'm going to see if I can show you that if I did that correctly.
As Kaʻala is doing that, just to let you know, so Black Friday is right around the corner. So a lot of the things that you guys are hearing, we're doing this just in time so that way you can look for the Black Friday sales. And there are a lot of good HD cameras, 4K webcams that are going on sale that are going to be like $20 to $30.
Yes, and when the webcams were like $300 for a regular webcam, people were scalping them. You couldn't get it. It was amazing. And now they're back to a reasonable price again. But when we start talking about, let me see if I can get to this point here. Oh, I was going to show you this, but I didn't. This was me wired. This is my download speed, right? This is off of Ookla. So I tried to check it before I came on. I check it every single time. I restart my computer before every presentation. I have presentations on my laptop in case like I need to, something goes wrong, you know, so I have presentations. I've done it on an iPad. I was presenting to Representative Ed Case, and it was like my big pitch for funding for this computer digital literacy project. And my whole computer shut down. The internet, the brand new computer went down like 5 minutes before. I couldn't get it back up. So our internet, we're having internet problems. And so I ended up putting the iPhone up right above me where that computer is. And I did the whole presentation to Representative Case with slides on my iPhone and my iPad. So I have all these redundancies. If you have to get your message across, you know, one is none is what they say. So I'm on, I was going to show you this stuff over here, this on my browser, but I'm getting a pretty legit download speed. I'm not getting exactly what I'm paying for off of Hawaiian Tel, but 433 megabits per second down is not bad. You know, minimum for Zoom is something like 25 down or 10 up or something like that. I can't remember. So we're paying some money. So again, on a budget, it just depends on what your job is, right? So my brother-in-law is in construction and contracting, and he has some really expensive tools that I don't need, even though I want them. And his truck is really, really cool, and I don't need it, but his looks go, well, I need a truck like that, honey. My wife is like, no, you don't. So, and to put this into perspective, I was in Waimanalo at a kupuna housing the other day, and this one auntie was getting 8 megabits per second down, just down the street from me. But it doesn't, you know, it's just brutal. So let me go, and I have to move this real quick and just change this. Well, here's Ecamm. So Ecamm is a Mac only application that allows for what you're seeing as overlays. Like this picture, I'm sorry, this picture of me right there is an overlay. So what that means is, as an overlay, I can put it over this stuff, or I can take it off. And this is not the only application that does this. In fact, I want to share with you a free one that does, and I would have used that before if I didn't get into this, you know, annual contract with these guys. But I love, was it approved, Jennifer? Thank you very much. Yes, we're on one of the 10 community funding projects. That's a good question. Like, did it work? So we're at one of the 10 community funding projects that Representative Case has submitted to Congress. So that's a great question. Was it approved? Yeah, because it'd be terrible. Oh, if my slideshow went down, I couldn't do it, but it did. So, you know, Representative Case is putting some money in to help people learn computers is what he's doing, and that's a good thing. So this is a $16 a month. Again, depending upon what your budget is. Zoom is like 14 or 15. I had to buy a Zoom, my darn own Zoom monthly account. I'm a sole proprietor. Even when I was working for the state up until July of this year, I had to buy my own Zoom one because nobody wants to use Jitsi, which I think is fantastic video conferencing platform, free, but everybody gets uncomfortable with it. So this is Ecamm. Again, it's whatchamacall. It is Mac only. And the different things here that allow you to do it, both of the paid versions allow for overlays, custom overlays and branding. You can see that inside here. And a little bit, the pro model will allow you to do what they call virtual webcams, that I can put this camera into Zoom as a virtual camera instead of like a real one. It's a little bit, I still kind of don't even understand it, but it's a little bit techy. Here is a free one. Let me just show you this real quick. This is called, love these guys. These guys, the URL is mmm.app. Phenomenal videos, simply produced. If you want to put overlays, you want to use a kind of maybe a little bit more of a non-linear type of presentation, then this is like an example of what provides. It works with most of the things that we're using, Teams and Zoom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've only dabbled in this, transform your video into a show instantly. You have little backgrounds you can change, yada, yada, yada. I've dabbled in this mostly because it's not compatible with my Ecamm setup right now. And so it just messes up. It just doesn't work. But it's $8 a month. This is the cheapest that I've found for any of these kind of softwares or applications that allow you to do some overlays. But they do have a free plan too. And you get to use premium tools for 1 hour each day. So not that bad. Thanks for putting that up there too, Cassie. The other one, anybody heard of before? Anybody use before? Anybody? Yep, no? Yeah. What about, thanks, Faith. What about Prezi? Anybody use Prezi before? Prezi was coming out kind of as a cool presentation software that was an alternative to PowerPoint and Keynote, but Prezi will allow you to do very similar things in terms of putting on different, graphics, overlays. Prezi will do that for you. Works with all these kind of things as well. You can see, here's an example of people doing it. You can see that over there. Here's a little thing. It zooms up and does all these kind of things. And kind of similar to what I'm doing on this. One thing I really like about Prezi is, but some people get nauseous, is this where it'll zoom out and zoom back in and gets like a little roller coaster. I think it's very interesting, but a little nauseating. And why don't I use it? I used it for one presentation on Kauai some couple years back when we could actually meet in person. And it was kind of fun for me. It just worked for that one. It didn't work for the other ones. It's non-linear. So much of what I'm doing right now is straight down I can go back and forth, but I'm in a linear presentation mode. And I like more of a conversational presentation. That's more of my approach anyway. Like Pam Chambers, I showed you, she teaches presentations. She's the most disciplined presenter I've ever seen. Just amazing. I'm very undisciplined. So you kind of live and die by the sword on this, right? But the other one on this, I think, which not Prezi, but Cassie had already showed you this. I was going to show you this is the light that I use. So that I kind of messed up a little bit. It should have been a little bit earlier. So we started looking at the streaming applications. It's a streaming app. Is what we're OBS is the other one. Yes. Yep. OBS is free. OBS is free. Mm-hmm. Yeah. OBS does all of this, and in fact, we did dabble in that. In early on, and I like it. I like free a lot. So, but it just took up a little bit more time than I had to go from more dabbling into being able to very easily, drop in Dorothy and Toto. But you could do it all on OBS. OBS is kind of the sort of the OG on this. And there's a couple of other streaming apps that are like this. Twitch, if you've ever heard of Twitch, people do this all the time. They're absolutely pros at this. This is their livelihood, and it's good to go. So going back to this, and those are some of the apps, smartphone stuff. I'm using Shoot right now on this Shoot, SHOOT, on this iPhone. Shoot, it's called Shoot, SHOOT. Gives me a clean out. Clean without any kind of stuff out. And by the way, speaking of mistakes again, you should be in airplane mode if you're using your phone to be a camera. They just shoot. It's not that fun. You're doing very important presentations, and kids are texting you or you're getting phone calls on it. So that's when I use. I have also used Camo before, CAMO. That is a paid. I think Shoot is paid too, but it's like $4 total. There's no monthly subscription. Camo is a monthly subscription for like $5. They're iPhone. I don't know if it works on other phones. And Epoch is also coming out of Elgato. That one is free, and that will connect either on a Wi-Fi or USB. But for me, it's a hit or miss. Like it sometimes works. It worked yesterday when I was doing this, when I was prepping for this. It worked yesterday, but then today I could not connect. So I'm like, which is why, for me, I'm on at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock today. And I'm on my computer at 10, going through all of my stuff that I already prepped yesterday for a 1 hour presentation. If I was 1 hour presentation at your office, Cassie, I wouldn't even, this takes so much more time. There's so much more production stuff. So this is essentially I think this is my whole list right here. This is all the stuff that I wanted to cover with you, talk about that kind of stuff. I'm open for questions. I'm going to remove my, whatchamacall, my spotlight thing here. And everybody who has your cameras on or mics on, I'm cool. If you have any questions, you can certainly turn your mic off or drop it in the chat. Let's see if we can help you. I hope this was beneficial for you, or at least if like, I don't want to do what he just did or you do. So ask me some stuff and I'll see if I can help clarify some things that might not have been so clear earlier.
Just so that you know, everyone, all the resources that Kaʻala shared, along with some of the tools and things, we're going to have in a follow-up email so that way you can have access to it. But it also be on our future eTechSig website that we're going to list out.
Hi, Kaʻala. I have a question.
Hi, Faith.
If you like, do you do trainings or facilitations where you need to collaborate and you need to use things like whiteboard or apps or something? Like, what are some of those apps, or what do you use when you have to collaborate with other people?
I have used whiteboards. I think Miro is one that I've used, MIRO, and that actually, there's people who do way better jobs at that, collaborating, getting people together, and the whiteboards. I love it. I love those kind of tools. You know, we've done breakout rooms in Zoom, which I think is actually pretty beneficial. Sometimes we force breakout rooms because we think that we want to get people to engage, you know, when really, you know, we're trying to get people's attention. And I know you're just playing with me. You just want to put me in a breakout room just so I make sure I turn my camera on and talk, or like Trisha was eating. You know, I'm usually eating all the time on these things. I would be if I wasn't, you know, talking right now. So when they do that, they, hey, put your camera on. I'm like, can you hang on just 30 seconds? So the breakout rooms, though, Miro is cool. There's a couple of different apps that use that. I've also plugged in my iPad before, any kind of tablet, but my handwriting is so terrible, right? You know, like, you know, if you've seen people that write across the screen, I tried to do it today, but I couldn't get my iPad charged enough. And I left my little pen. I had to buy a pen too. I feel like I spent so much money. Once you go down this path, you know, you're like, oh, when does it stop? This is terrible. Somebody stop me. But I had to buy a little pen and I love it. But I would write a lot more on an iPad, like a whiteboard. And you can trace right across my, I love that kind of thing. It's so cool. And Ecamm, the app that I'm using, would just allow it as another camera interface. So like this, I'm running this camera into Ecamm. And normally if my iPad was charged, if I was planned ahead, I would run that into Ecamm as well. This Canon M50 is also running into Ecamm, so I have multiple cameras and I select between them. But Miro, I like how people also use Google Docs really, really well. I'm not as good at that, but Google Docs is fantastic. Here's the thing, you can watch everybody writing on it together. I think that's fantastic use of that. So, but I'm not normally on that path or that type of approach for the jobs that I use. But as a participant, I love them. Absolutely love them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. I also do have an app that I didn't talk about. Oh, you can't see it here. It's not the one. It is, is this, I don't know if you can see it here. Where am I? Oh, shucks, I can't do it right now. Where is it? Oh, anyway, but I have like a little app called Big Clock that runs right underneath my camera. It's right there. You can't see it. It's like, and it tells me it's 12:53 because I tend to lose track of time. I don't know why I can't get onto this right now. Oh, there it is. Oh, I have to push the button. So you can see it right up here where it says 12:53. That, I love that app. It's free. That I keep that right above right underneath my camera, right above my eyeballs. And that's kind of where that goes. Because you know what I don't like doing? I don't like doing this. Watch my eyes. I don't like going like this to look at the clock. It's like when you're sitting at somebody at you know, the meeting that you don't want to go to, and you're like, oh, and you do that kind of nonverbal, you know. I'm like, so that for me, when I do this, it's just like, it's just too obvious. I don't like it, but I like to look right there. It's hard for you to see that I'm looking at the clock. So I use that app a lot.
So Kaʻala, we have a question. What app do you use to write on the screen during the presentation? I noticed you mentioned that you take your iPad and you connect it to Ecamm, but is there a specific app that you use when you're doing it?
Yes, and for whatever reason, my powered hub, those powered hubs are expensive. Like you think I have unpowered USB hubs and 2 powered USB hubs right now. And they're like $200 for a powered USB hub. I'm like, whoa. But we have a guy in Hawaii who is one of the big Ecamm guys. So Facebook has an Ecamm group. His name is Doc. I forgot his last name. I just call him Doc. But he's
Doc,
like actually
Doc Rock.
That's the one, Doc Rock. Yeah, I don't know what his real name is, but Ecamm hired him, and he's fantastic. I would just spend so much time going through the Ecamm Facebook group to learn from him, and he's terrible. I haven't watched him for a long time, and haven't spent a lot of money in a long time. And I think they directly correlate because he's like, oh, look at this cool USB powered hub. But going back to your question on the app that I use, I can't remember what it's called. It's one that my little, darn it. I don't know if anybody have any iPad writing apps that you use. They can share that either in the chat or on the Mac. I forgot what it is, and it won't turn on. Let me see. I can't remember, but there's a couple of them, and you type in the App Store apps that write. It starts with a P, I think. I can't remember.
Is it Notebook? Is it Simple Note? Notability?
Notability is what it is. I think I'm using Notability. But anything that gets you can, again, an iPad will just act as a camera coming in, a camera feed. So whatever you're writing on doesn't matter. Pretty agnostic on that app. Ecamm, I'm not agnostic at all. I'm straight up. I'm going to use that. I would like to be an OBS user, but it just takes so much time.
Yeah, OBS takes some time because you have to set up all the different screens and your different shots, and your presentations change each time. So sometimes you have different views, so you have to set up which view is which and identify it.
Yeah. I mean, same. Look at, if you look at this thing here on Ecamm, this is my Ecamm scenes just for this right here, for the ATD one. So, and this was a little bit different. I don't normally do it like this. So, which is always weird. Like you're going to do it, you're going to figure this out live as you go. But these are all individual scenes that I can control either from my Stream Deck or by just clicking on them. Like, so here's my Toto one, or Dorothy and Toto. And there's a group, a picture that I didn't even use, which was this one, and I just didn't get a chance to use that. It didn't fit well. But again, setting up all those scenes is like setting up slides, and they go pretty linearly if I click through this thing.
So Kaʻala, with all this setup, how many hours did you spend practicing and setting everything up just to get this all ready for us today?
Yeah, kind of a lot. Sorry. Thanks, Jennifer. Kind of a lot. I'm like, what the heck, Cassie? So I'm like, I'm gonna do like this. I thought we were gonna do like a little talk story, and then I gotta put some of these things together. I'm like realizing how much that is. So, a couple hours this morning, a couple hours, probably 2. I got done about 7 o'clock last night. But I started at about 5. Maybe, shucks, that's a heck of a lot. I'm a little embarrassed, but it's probably about 5 to 6 hours for an online presentation that if we're doing this in person, this would be like 0 prep. And you just show up and just plug in the computer to a projector. You were pretty hip back in the day if you had your own projector, show up with your laptop. But now, and then plus I'm not really used to, and I did it a completely different way than I normally do. And I feel like this is a little bit more fun for me. And, having fun is kind of the deal. So if you're not having fun in your own presentation, maybe there's other stuff that you can do. So
what everybody else on the call, like how many hours, go ahead and put in the chat, how many hours does it take you to set up for like a presentation? If you had to do an hour presentation, how many hours do you think you do?
That's a good question.
Like you, Kaʻala, I will spend an hour and a half and prep everything for the online session, and then I wing all the rest, so I think if you're in person, you get ready 5 minutes before and you just kind of, okay, let's go.
And yeah, if you have like your material that you always do, like I'm always doing customer service or team building or leadership stuff, you're just pulling slides and redoing slides and redoing it. But it's, for each hour back in the day, we do about, for brand new content, about 3 hours. For new content now online, it's at least doubled for me, because I have to do just even figure out what the message is, and then like the thing for Makana for the SHRM conference took a lot of time. It just, I'm still have to think about what the actual presentation is, and then you have to figure out how to present it online. So it just adds to the whole thing.
It looks like an average, everyone says about 6 hours and maybe more, if it's a new content. So yeah. Well, Kaʻala, mahalo. Thank you very much for your time. Round of applause from everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing this for us. We greatly appreciate it. And we, hopefully everybody can go ahead and get some new information. We'll definitely go ahead and share out the links that we had and all the different pieces of content that was available. But thank you very much for joining us, everybody. I know it's a holiday for some, but have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Mahalo.
Thank you.
We're so right on time too. Yeah, what the heck?
I know.